The gardener's eyes widened in horror as he stumbled upon us in the backyard. My lips were still pressed against Presley's, her hands tangled in my hair, when the sound of his rake hitting the ground shattered the moment. "Miss Allison?" he stammered, backing away like he'd seen a ghost. Little did I know that single second would rip my world apart and force me to choose between the woman I loved and the family I owed everything to. I pulled back fast, heart hammering, while Presley froze beside me on the stone bench behind my company house in the Chicago suburbs. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawn, but all I could see was the old man's face twisting from shock to something darker, like disapproval mixed with fear. He worked for Langford Enterprises just like me, trimming hedges for the executives who lived in these perks-of-the-job homes. I didn't mean to intrude," he muttered, grabbing his tools and hurrying toward the gate. Presley squeezed my hand once before letting go. "Allison, he saw us. What if he says something?" Her voice was steady, but her blue eyes flickered with the same worry that had kept us hidden for 6 months. We met at a quiet bar downtown, two women drawn together by stolen glances and late-night talks that turned into something neither of us planned. She was mysterious, always changing the subject when I asked about her past, but her laugh made the corporate grind disappear. I was Allison Reed, 28, executive assistant to Chairman Victor Langford himself, the man who built an empire from nothing. My job paid for my mother's house back in small-town Indiana and my brother's tuition at Purdue. They still went to the same church every Sunday, the one where the pastor preached about traditional values and family legacy. Coming out wasn't an option. It would break Mom's heart and turn the town against us. "He won't say anything," I whispered, pulling Presley close for one last second before she slipped out the back gate. But the next morning at the office, everything felt off. Whispers followed me down the marble halls of Langford Tower. By lunch, the head of security pulled me aside. "Routine check after an incident at your residence," he said, eyes avoiding mine. "We ran the visitor logs." My stomach dropped. Presley had used a fake name when she visited before, but now they wanted details. I lied through my teeth, claiming she was an old college friend. That night I called Mom like always. "Everything good at work, honey?" she asked, her voice warm but edged with the exhaustion of raising us alone after Dad died. "Just busy," I said, forcing a laugh. She didn't need to know how close I was to losing it all. 3 days later, the rumors started. Someone in maintenance had talked. The gardener had reported suspicious activity involving a woman at my house. Security dug deeper. And then on the 7th day, the boardroom doors opened during the quarterly meeting and everything changed. Chairman Langford stood at the head of the long oak table, his silver hair perfectly combed, power radiating off him like always. "Team, I'd like you to meet someone special," he announced, voice booming. In walked Presley. Not the Presley I knew from quiet nights and hidden kisses. This Presley wore a tailored black suit, hair pinned back professionally, a confident smile on her face. "My daughter," Langford said. "Presley Harrington Langford. She's joining us as Vice President of Strategic Development." DNA confirmed last week after an old sealed file finally opened. The room erupted in polite applause, but I sat frozen, coffee mug slipping from my fingers. She was his secret daughter, the result of an affair 25 years ago that he'd hidden to protect his image and his empire. Presley met my eyes across the table for one brief second, and in that look I saw the same fear I felt. The gardener's report had triggered the investigation that uncovered her identity. One kiss in the yard had dragged her into the spotlight and me right along with it. My career, my family, our love, everything hung by a thread now. As the meeting ended, Langford clapped Presley on the shoulder. "Welcome home, kid. No more hiding." But hiding was all we had left. The rest of the day blurred into meetings and forced smiles. I avoided the executive floor, burying myself in reports, but every time I closed my eyes I saw Presley's face in that boardroom. My girlfriend. The chairman's daughter. The woman whose existence could destroy the conservative empire Langford had built on family values and ironclad reputation. By 5 o'clock my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Rooftop. Now." It was her. The private elevator carried me up 40 stories, wind whipping my hair as I stepped onto the helipad terrace. Presley stood at the railing, city lights sparkling below like scattered diamonds. "I didn't know," she said before I could speak. I grew up thinking my dad was some trucker who left. Mom never told me until she was dying last year. I came to Chicago to find him quietly, not like this. Her voice cracked and I wanted to hold her, but the memory of the gardener's stare kept my hands at my sides. The security guy showed Langford the report about the mysterious blonde at my house. He demanded a DNA test on a hunch. Now here I am, heir to billions, and all I can think about is how close we came to getting caught. I stepped closer, the wind carrying the scent of her perfume. We can't keep doing this, Presley. My family relies on this job. Mom's medical bills, my brother's school. If word gets out about us, Langford will see it as a betrayal. He'll ruin me, and my family pays the price. She turned eyes fierce. You think I want that? I just got a father. A real one. For the first time I have a name that means something. But you're the only real thing in my life. We didn't kiss. Not there where cameras watched every corner. Instead we stood shoulder to shoulder, the city humming beneath us, pretending we were just colleagues discussing strategy. That night I drove to my mother's house 2 hours outside the city, the same ritual every other weekend. She greeted me at the door with fresh apple pie. Her smile the one that had held our family together through Dad's death. You look tired, Allie. Work's stressing you. Over coffee she asked the question I dreaded. Any special someone yet? The pastor's son keeps asking about you. I forced a laugh. Not right now, Mom. But inside guilt clawed at me. If the truth came out, the church ladies would whisper, the neighbors would stare, and Mom's heart condition would flare up again. Back in Chicago Monday morning, the confrontations started. Langford called me into his office. Allison, you've been invaluable. But with Presley joining us, I need absolute loyalty. No distractions. Understand? His eyes bored into mine like he already knew. I nodded, throat tight. Later in the copy room, Presley cornered me. He suspects something. He asked me point blank if I knew you outside work. Her hand brushed mine for a second, sending sparks through me, but she pulled away fast. I told him no. I had to. That was the first betrayal born of fear. By Wednesday, my brother texted from college. Mom's been crying on the phone. Says she heard rumors you're acting different at work. What's going on? The gardener's report had leaked further than I thought. Small-town gossip traveled fast when money and power were involved. I met Presley secretly that night in a dingy diner on the south side where no one knew us. We have to stop, I said, voice breaking. For my family. She reached across the table, fingers trembling. And what about us? Are we nothing? Tears stung my eyes. The price of truth was already climbing, and we hadn't even begun the real fight. The weeks that followed turned into a minefield of half-truths and near misses. At the office, Presley threw herself into her new role, charming investors and rewriting strategy documents with a brilliance that made Langford beam with pride he never showed anyone else. I watched from the sidelines, scheduling her meetings, fetching her coffee like any good assistant, while inside I was screaming. Every time our eyes met in the elevator or across the conference table, the memory of that backyard kiss burned hotter. But the gardener's sighting had set off a chain reaction none of us could stop. Security cameras from that day had been reviewed after his report, and though they showed nothing explicit, the timestamp matched the moment he dropped his tools. Langford, paranoid about family image after years of tabloid threats, ordered deeper background checks on everyone close to Presley. My name kept coming up. Allison Reed has been exemplary, he told her one afternoon in the glass-walled office I could see from my desk. But I won't tolerate any personal entanglements that could tarnish our name. Not now. Presley nodded, then came to my cubicle later with a stack of files as cover. He's watching us both, she whispered. I told him you're just my assistant. Nothing more. Another lie born of fear. That evening my mother called, voice shaky. Honey, Mrs. Jenkins from church said she heard from her cousin in Chicago that there's talk about you and some woman at the company. Is that true? I gripped the phone until my knuckles whitened. Mom, it's nothing. Just office gossip. But she cried softly. Your father and I raised you right. Don't throw away everything we've built. The guilt was suffocating. My brother followed up with a text. Mom's blood pressure is through the roof. Please fix whatever this is. I drove to Presley's new penthouse that night, the one Langford had gifted her, using the service entrance like a criminal. She opened the door in silk pajamas, eyes red from crying. I can't lose him now, Allison. Not after 25 years of wondering. We sat on her balcony overlooking the lake, hands inches apart but not touching. And I can't lose my family, I replied. The confrontation escalated when Langford summoned both of us to his private club the next weekend. Over scotch he looked me dead in the eye. Presley tells me you're reliable. Prove it. Help her adjust but keep things professional. No slip-ups. Presley stayed silent, staring at her glass. On the drive back she finally broke. I betrayed you again. I said you were pushing for more responsibility, nothing personal. I'm sorry. Tears streamed down her face. Fear makes monsters of us. I wanted to scream to tell her love shouldn't cost this much, but the image of my mother in a hospital bed kept me quiet. Work turned toxic. Colleagues noticed the tension, whispering about favoritism. One afternoon in the break room, a senior VP cornered me. Careful, Reed. Langford's daughter is off-limits in every way. The pressure built until I couldn't breathe. Presley and I argued in the parking garage after hours. Choose, she said, voice raw. Me or them. I walked away without answering, the sound of her sobs echoing off concrete walls. The betrayals were piling up, each one chipping away at what we had. My reputation at the company started to crack when anonymous emails hinted at inappropriate conduct. Langford called me in again. Fix this or you're gone. That night I sat in my car outside Mom's house, watching her through the window as she prayed at the kitchen table. The choice was coming and it would be irreversible. The breaking point arrived during the annual shareholder gala at the Langford estate. Crystal chandeliers glittered above 500 of the city's elite, but all I felt was dread. Presley stood beside her father in a red gown that turned heads, playing the perfect heiress while I hovered in the background as staff. My mother had insisted on coming after hearing rumors, dragging my brother along for family support. She hugged me tight at the entrance. You look beautiful, Allie. Whatever's going on, we'll face it together. Her words cut deeper than any knife. Across the ballroom, Presley caught my eye, a silent plea passing between us. The first confrontation exploded in the garden terrace. I stepped out for air and she followed, pulling me behind a marble column. I can't pretend anymore, she whispered fiercely. This is killing me. Before I could stop her, she kissed me hard. The same desperate passion from that backyard afternoon. Footsteps approached. We broke apart just as my mother rounded the corner. Her face drained of color. Allison. The word hung like a death sentence. She turned and walked away without another word. Inside, Langford announced Presley's official role, praising her integrity and family commitment. The irony burned. Later, in the ladies' room, my mother cornered me, voice trembling with rage and hurt. After everything we sacrificed? The church, the town, your father's memory? This is how you repay us? Tears streamed down her face. End it or don't come home again. My brother stood outside, arms crossed. Mom's having chest pains. Fix this. Presley found me afterward, guilt etched on her face. I saw her leave. I should have stopped us. But fear won again. She suggested we cool off publicly until things settled. Just until I secure my place. Another betrayal. I drove home alone that night, the gala lights fading in my rearview. The next morning Langford fired the gardener quietly, but the damage was done. Office whispers turned to open stares. My performance review came back, needs improvement. A clear warning. I met Presley in a motel on the outskirts, the kind of place where secrets died. My family knows, I told her. Mom won't speak to me. My brother says I'm destroying them. She reached for me but I stepped back. And you keep choosing your new life over ours. The argument escalated into shouts. You think this is easy for me? She cried. I finally have a father who sees me, and now I'm supposed to risk losing him for love? We left without resolving anything, the rift widening. Days blurred into strategy sessions where Presley and I sat on opposite sides of the table, professional masks hiding the war inside. My mother's calls stopped. Instead, the hospital called. Stress had triggered her arrhythmia. She keeps asking for you, the nurse said. I rushed there, holding her hand while machines beeped. Please, Allie, she whispered. Choose us. When Presley texted later asking to meet, I ignored it. The trade-offs were real now: reputation slipping, career hanging by a thread, blood ties fraying. The irreversible moment loomed closer with every breath. The boardroom battle came 2 days after Mom's hospital release. Langford called an emergency meeting about reputation management. Presley sat at his right hand, notes poised, while I stood at the back with the assistants. Leaked photos from the gala suggest personal indiscretions, he said coldly, sliding printouts across the table. Blurry images of Presley and me on the terrace. Not kissing but close enough. Heads turned my way. Allison, explain. My voice didn't shake. They're old, sir. Nothing ongoing. But Presley wouldn't meet my eyes. Langford leaned forward. Presley assures me there's no truth to any rumors. I expect the same from you. She had denied us again, this time in front of the entire executive team. The betrayal stung like acid. After the meeting, she cornered me in the stairwell. I had to. He's threatening to cut me off if anything tarnishes the family name. My inheritance, my future. Tears filled her eyes. I love you, but I can't lose everything. I laughed bitterly. And what about me? My mother almost died because of this. My brother won't return my calls. My career is circling the drain. We argued until security knocked on the door. That night I drove to the small Indiana town I'd grown up in. The one where everyone knew everyone's business. Mom sat on the porch, Bible in her lap. You came. Her voice was flat. But if you choose that life, don't expect us at your side. My brother stood behind her. We love you, but we can't watch you throw it all away. The words carved into me deeper than any boardroom dismissal. Back in Chicago, Presley waited at my door. I told him the truth, she said quietly. Not everything, but enough. He's giving me one chance to end it cleanly. We sat on the couch, the same one where we'd shared secret dinners. I can't keep betraying you, she whispered. But I can't lose him either. For the first time we held each other without fear of windows or cameras, but it felt like goodbye. The next morning Langford summoned me alone. You're a good assistant, Allison, but distractions are unacceptable. Effective immediately, you're reassigned to the satellite office in Indianapolis. Closer to family. It was a demotion disguised as mercy. My reputation was in tatters, career trajectory shattered. Presley waited outside. I tried to stop him, but the fear in her voice said otherwise. That evening I packed a box at my desk while colleagues avoided my eyes. The price of truth was mounting, and the final choice was days away. The irreversible decision came on a rainy Friday in the Indianapolis office Langford had exiled me to. Presley drove 3 hours to find me, soaked and desperate. I can't do this anymore, she said, standing in the doorway of my temporary apartment. I told him everything. That I love you. That the gardener saw us because we were real. Her voice broke. He gave me an ultimatum, me or the company. I chose you. Relief flooded me, but it was short-lived. My phone rang. Mom. Allison, the church elders called. They know. Your brother's scholarship is under review because of family values. I'm begging you, end this before we lose everything. I looked at Presley, her hand reaching for mine. In that moment the choice crystallized. I could walk away, protect the family that raised me, keep the fragile peace. Or I could stand with the woman who had risked her entire world for us. I love you, I told Presley. But I have to protect them. She stepped back as if I'd slapped her. After everything? The betrayal was mine this time. Born of the same fear that had haunted us both. She left without another word. The door clicking shut like a final period. I called Langford the next morning. I'll resign quietly if you leave my family alone. He agreed. My mother cried with relief on the phone. You made the right choice, honey. But as weeks turned to months, the emptiness grew. Presley disappeared from the company. Rumors saying she took a smaller role across the country. I rebuilt in Indianapolis, career stalled but family safe. 1 year later I saw her on the news, accepting an award for a new foundation, smiling the same smile that once lit up my world. The truth had cost us both everything we thought we wanted. Was Allison right to choose family honor over her love for Presley, or should she have fought for her true self no matter the cost?